Hello, Steve said I'm Dominick Calsolaro. I'm a city council member in the city of Albany, New York. And thanks to Steve and Lynn Jackson and some other people in Albany, I introduced a resolution in the Albany Council last April 2010, that called on the U.S. Attorney's Office to implement the provisions of the study that was done in 2009 by the U.S. Attorney's Inspector General, asking them that these preemptive prosecution cases of Muslims, that they be reopened to look at whatever exculpatory evidences were withheld and other issues of these cases. We had a local case in Albany with a ref and Hussein in Albany, and at the end of the trial, there was a lot of evidence that the attorneys were not allowed to see. They went through the whole process of being vetted and background checks for months, and then they still weren't able to see the evidence against you. And of course, as we all know, we have the right to, in America, you know, the Bill of Rights and the Constitution, to see the evidence and to see who's, bringing charges against you, to face them in court. And this wasn't allowed, and actually the judge in the case actually said at the end that he saw the evidence and it was, overwhelming, and he's telling that to the jury. It's really, to me, it just goes against the Constitution. And so we introduced the resolution, and it passed in Albany the night we introduced it. And it was a wonderful night. We had well over 100 people came, and they came from all over the East Coast. They came from as far away as North Carolina, and Washington, D.C., and Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and New York City. And then locally, and our chambers were packed with people, and somewhere around 24, 25 people spoke. We have a 5-minute public comment period. Each member is allowed 5 minutes to speak, and the people of the families from the Fort Dix 5 and the Newburgh 4 and the Albany case came, and the family spoke. And what I tell people is we really want other cities to get this introduced. It's not a specific resolution. It doesn't just say Muslims. It talks about the Inspector General's report and just asking the Attorney General, U.S. Attorney General, to implement the recommendations of the report. But when people saw, when the other council members in Albany, we have 15 members, heard from these families and saw the faces, it really made an impact. So I'm telling people, or asking people to try to do, is to try to get it into their city council, whether it's Philadelphia or working with New York. We've worked with Syracuse in New York, New York City. We've been to Washington, trying to see if we can get this introduced, because even if it's just introduced, I'm not saying try to get it passed, but if you can get it on an agenda, you get it out there, now it's introduced. Now that opens the door for a committee meeting or a hearing or a public hearing on the proposal, and then we can bring all these families who come again, and they'll speak. And people need to see the faces. They need to see that these preemptive prosecutions of putting entrapment is really what it is of these Muslim families, that they are families, that there are little kids, that the children are being affected, the wives are being affected, mothers, fathers, the families are being destroyed. And when you destroy the families, you're also destroying the community that they're coming from. And like in Albany, it wasn't just a Muslim community. It was a whole area of the Arbor Hill, West area of Albany, a very low-income area of Albany that was affected by this. This is where the mosque was in Albany, and so it affects us all. And so I'm hoping that we can get this introduced. Find a council member in your local council that is willing just to introduce this. Like I said, it's not specific just to Muslims, and get it introduced, and then that'll open up the door, make it mean to families. And on the side for the, we did our protest in Albany yesterday for the FBI, because we have an office right in Albany. Actually, we're kind of almost right behind my house. And we spoke, and I just brought up the fact that, when I take my oath of office, I swear to uphold the Constitution of the United States as well as the state of New York. And that's why I'm out doing this, because I feel that our Constitution is not being followed by members of the U.S. Attorney's Office, by the FBI, by some other law enforcement agencies, that the Bill of Rights, the First, Fourth, and Sixth Amendments are being trampled upon. And I have a duty, I swore an oath to uphold the Constitution, and I feel like I am doing my duty by going out and doing this, because I swore an oath to uphold the Constitution, and when I see the Bill of Rights being trampled on, then I feel like I'm doing my job and following the oath that I took to uphold the Constitution. And just to let you know, I got this tie, says Bill of Rights. I actually got this in Philadelphia about 10 years ago, the last time I was here. Thank you.